I will like something, I will see something, and
Right.
you're on it. You've already liked it. So,
How?
for
What do you
example,
mean, like,
like the future Chris Doe,
right?
and I think that's someone that a lot of creatives like for getting paid.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah. I get what you're saying. Like you're looking at things and like, oh, he's
you already liked it, and I'm like, oh, you're like following the same guy, but not
right,
only following the same guy, but you're engaging with the same content.
right.
So often that's been happening,
I love that.
right? But then there's this other guy named like Michael Honda who used to run an agency, sold it,
Right.
and he helps you how to get paid. And so like I've listed a few things at the bottom, which is like here's some people that like if you like this, like if
Like
this
that would
is
be, yeah.
like I would recommend following because
Right.
from the perspective if you're a freelancer, like these are good people to a freelance creator.
Yeah.
These are good people to follow because they can help you get there faster. Because we all make mistakes, but we
Yeah.
don't have to make the same mistakes.
Right. Or over and over.
Because
start from scratch.
because
Yeah.
there's people who with 20 years of experience like already figured out a better way.
Yeah.
So why reinvent the freaking wheel? Like
We're starting and we try to be creatives, but we can't even create because we're figuring it out. I'm really excited, just so you know.
this is awesome, my man.
Like I'm more excited than you are.
I don't know, man.
And I think that I'm excited, because I just met you. I think you're the first person that I'm talking to
Yeah,
that I met in the past like 5-6 months
yeah,
or
yeah,
less.
yeah. We don't have like 20 years of history, right?
No,
Yeah.
and everyone else that I've been talking to, like I know
There's some familiarity
their
there.
families, their wives, their kids, their school. Like the first guy I interviewed, Sammy, we were like 14, 15,
Okay.
and now
Yeah.
we're in our 30s. So with you, it's like it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's a new conversation, and it just feels also, besides it being so new, it feels like we know each other for a long time.
So yeah, I'm super excited to talk about like how, you know, creatives, right? That's the creative workshop. That's what you got
Creative
here,
workshop, yeah.
right? And so I'm excited because I've been making a living on my own per se,
Yeah.
outside of a job
Yeah.
for I don't know, maybe 19, 20 years.
So like you have a job, and besides of that, you've been doing,
No, what I mean
What do
is
you mean?
like so I've had like
or like you
collectively, I
Right.
maybe in the last 20 years like have had a job, a real job
right?
for only like 2 years collectively.
Oh, good. I mean, as in you've been running your own businesses.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And creating.
Creating.
But like for the first 10 years, I created code. I wrote over a million lines of code.
Okay.
And then
Is
that,
that like for a company or
yeah, for our business, for Luis and I, our business, it helps people promote themselves online.
Yeah.
Before there was Facebook, our business was like written about in books and articles and stuff. And it was very innovative in the early mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And we wrote that code, we designed stuff online, and people like would come in, put their news in, and then it would spread.
Nice.
Before you had Facebook and all that, Instagram, right? But so that's kind of where I started creating. But before we did that,
Yeah.
we failed a bunch.
Okay.
So we started like 3 or 4 projects, and then that one landed.
Right. And how is it? I mean, just before you get into that,
Yeah.
like the details of it, how was it? Because Luis is your brother.
Yeah.
How was it? You guys? How did you guys get into like? Okay, let's start that. Did you guys study that, or did you just learn it, or
Nah,
or
man.
What was the beginning? Because I know a lot of people, and I always say like I love learning all the details, but it's like if I was watching,
Yeah.
and I don't know the first step,
Yeah.
like it's really hard to see the whole picture, you know?
Yeah.
what
Actually,
was
so
the
then I
beginning?
want to go back to
For sure.
to something we were talking about earlier. Is the question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to be the baker or do you want to own the bakery?
Woo!
Right.
That's so good. Okay.
And-
Baker would mean you be the worker.
You're making the pies.
You're making the pies.
You're making
and you own
cake.
the bakeries. You're running the bakers.
When you're running the bakery, you're the leader, right? And your job isn't to be sitting there in the kitchen making all the pies.
Right. Have you in your experience? And it's like right now you're teaching me, like, and hopefully people will learn as I'm learning.
Right.
But were you ever the baker?
Yeah.
And you transitioned into owning the bakery.
Right.
What was that? Show
Right.
me how, like if in
What does that look like?
yeah, what does that look like in someone
It's hard.
like me? How could we do that? Yeah.
It's hard because the bigger lesson of all of this
Yeah.
is every big thing starts small.
Okay.
And so like give yourself a break and just like you're great at this. You just go create. You're not worried about perfection, although you have such talent and experience that what comes out, your output is pretty high quality, even if it didn't take you a long period of time.
Right.
But I see you're just going fast or whatever. You're not so worried that this pixel is perfect.
Yeah.
You're like, no, the job is like, we need to get this done in this short amount of time. And for me, that's not something that I've accustomed to.
Okay.
Coming back to like being the baker.
Okay.
right?
And I've seen that. I mean, just to tiptoe on that, I seen that in my life growing and next to creatives. A lot of people in my life and a lot of friends and a lot of people who are doing, you know, they're waiting for that excellence.
Yeah.
And they're still waiting.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I have a lot
yeah.
of friends right now that I'm like, hey, drop the podcast, drop the video, drop
Yeah.
the music. And
Right.
they're like, oh wait, like I'm working. And I'm like, bro, I already did like 3 years of YouTube.
Yeah.
And they're not that good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to my standards. But I don't think, like, I don't push myself over it, and I don't stop.
Yeah.
And I feel that every week, if it's weekly or every month,
Right.
you just add. You know, I was just telling you, now I was like looking at my previous podcast and I'm like, okay, I need to get more equipment.
And so Luis and I, before we did that first business, we had a bunch of jobs together. We grew up really tight, and we fought a lot.
Yeah.
Even like even bad fighting, right?
Right.
But as time went on, we got a little bit better about things, and today we're in a great place. For the last 10 years, we haven't like fought like we used to.
Yeah.
For the last 5 years, it's been very, very good.
That's good.
But when we were kids,
yeah.
right? Like we're very competitive and everything.
And you guys are close to age?
Yeah, he's a couple years older than me.
Okay.
But so we created, like, we had a certain action sports brand that got us into an action sports retail convention. We just solely did it because we wanted to go to the convention.
Nice.
And so we just kind of did something. Yeah, but it was like we did 10 articles and like because we just had to have like something to show to be able to get into the convention or whatever, right? Anyway, so like that was the first thing we did together on that end. But that didn't go anywhere, and we had no idea what we were doing. Yeah. And then like after I graduated from university, Luis and I kind of started working on some stuff, and we ended up working at a company together for like a year. Yeah. We left there thinking we knew it all, but one thing we didn't know was how to sell. Oh. Right. And this is the baker versus the bakery. We were good bakers.
You knew how to make the thing.
Yeah, but we didn't know how to market.
Wow.
Right. We didn't know how to sell the stuff that we were making. Right. And so we struggled for a bit. We got lucky when we created the project's called PR Leap that we still run today, but we run it very hands off. Yeah. In fact, Jorge once was like, "What do you guys do?" Right. Because he would just see us around and
was doing stuff, but like, what is it?
Well, he was actually probably like, "You're always at Starbucks. Like, when do you work?" Or like, "What do you know? Like what's going on with you?" Kind of thing. I remember I probably saw him last time 4 years ago, and he asked me that. Like, and we had known each other probably for 10 years. So like, he was kind of like, "What do you guys do?"
Like, I always see you on vacation or a coffee shop.
Ándale. And so thankfully at some point we got lucky and figured out that, hey, if we give something away for free, this was early internet days. Okay. If we give something away for free and have these paid upgrades, enough people would use our platform, and it would go on to Google News, which would reach more people who would come back in.
Because they get a free stuff at the beginning.
Yeah, but then to be like, oh yeah, at that time, like adding an image or a video to a website was really hard. Yeah. But we coded it in, and so you could do it on your own. This is like 2006, 2007, 2008.
Like you said before, Facebook was like super like.
Yeah. So we had these paid upgrades, and so it's called the freemium model. Today, it's like well known. Right. But in 2006, it was novel. It was new. But so at that point, we kind of got lucky that even though we didn't really know how to like do paid advertising, which is actually really strong skill to have to grow a brand, we didn't know how to do that. But by giving something away for free, and this is you mentioned Seth Godin earlier. Right. He actually wrote about us in his blog. He wrote about us in a book, and he actually was a customer, and I actually got on a call with him where he talked to me about our business. Yeah. And I asked him a question, and his answer, I had no idea what he was saying. I couldn't understand it. I felt really dumb.
Back then,
in 2006, I was on vacation, and I dial into this call, and there was like probably 5 other people on the call, and I got to ask a few questions, and I didn't understand what he was saying. But what he was saying is actually he's got this book, Permission Marketing, and inadvertently we did what he did. Yeah. He actually gave away the book for free in 1999, I believe, 97. Wow. He gave it away for free, and then he went on to sell 1 million copies of it. It's counterintuitive.
How? Yeah.
Right? Well, it's because by giving it away for free, right? He also had Unleashing the Idea Virus, so I might be getting it wrong. That maybe it was Unleashing the Idea Virus was the one that he gave it for free.
It was one of his books.
One of those 2 were the first 2. Yeah. But the point is ideas that spread win. Yeah. And so he gave it away as a PDF, not as a book.
So he wasn't like losing money.
No. And
But he was showing like what he was doing. He was spreading the word.
yeah.
Naturally, people were sharing the PDF.
And then people were like, oh, well, I want the real book, like, because I want to have it on my shelf.
Yeah.
Almost all these books I have on my Kindle.
Yeah.
And I have highlight notes and everything. Why do
But
I have them here? Because maybe sometimes I want to grab it and page
right,
through it. But
there's
that's,
value.
yeah, there's
I do
some,
that. I do that with movies.
yeah.
A lot of the movies
Oh,
that
really?
I'm buying digitally
Yeah.
now, like I own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but sometimes people want that. They want the copy, or
Yeah.
the actual physical copy has
Yeah.
like a booklet or it has
Yeah.
something extra.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And like there's some books where like the author signed it for me. So it's maybe a little
Right.
special there, right?
Yeah.
But in any case, what we did with that first business is we gave away for free, like you could use it, and that brought us every day hundreds of people would come sign up for the business,
Wow.
and on their own,
Yeah.
and then some percentage of them, a small percent, maybe 3 to 5%, would pay.
Right.
But every day that compounds, and so all of a sudden we went from like something that wasn't popular to like actually having 1,000 news articles every day being put through the system, finding new people. So that was like the first business. That gave us some time, but it was never. It stopped being my passion.
Yeah.
Luis and I, like at the beginning, we were just kind of like, we just want a business that'll pay us, and we just want to have our own business. The idea of having your own business was very like, like it was just something that we wanted.
Right.
But eventually, that wasn't our passion. We lost interest.
Yeah.
And then we're kind of like floating.
Business, but not having a business.
Yeah, we lost passion in that business.
Mm-hmm.
And we made some decisions that caused it to stop growing. Mm-hmm. And it still runs today, like I was saying, without us doing much. But we had to make peace with like, it's the 4-hour work week. I don't know if you've heard about that book, but like that we went on a vacation. We're like, we read that book and we're like, oh yes, we're going to go this way.
What is the big
the
idea
concept there is that the business works for you. You don't work for it. Right. It's a lifestyle business. Yeah. And so in that book, he kind of talks about like, hey, especially like as a freelancer, this might kind of, or as a creative, you might have the nightmare client. Right. And he's going to take up like, if say you work in a 2-week period, 100 hours, this nightmare client might take up 80 of those 100 hours, but only be paying you 20% of what you get. Fire that client.
Right. It's not worth it.
No, like he's not allowing you to be creative. He's micromanaging that clients, like, and you're still going to be left with say 80% of your revenue, but you're going to get back 80% of your time, which will allow you to go find. So the 4-hour work week was modeled after that kind of idea where the business should work for you and you get to like enjoy the profits of the business. Right.
Which is time and money.
Yeah. Both. Yeah. Right. And so going back to the bakery, at some point, if you want to grow the business, then you're not gonna you have to make decisions. If you want to grow a business, right, you're probably not gonna want just one bakery, right? Like you're gonna want multiple ones.
Locations, yeah.
It's impossible for you to be at every one at every time, so you have to start to grow up your leadership, your team. Yeah. There's a book called Built to Sell that kind of talks really good about that kind of stuff. Okay. And it actually has like an example of a fictional creative agency. Okay. And the guy like decides he wants to sell it and he goes to this mentor, and the whole book kind of outlines like a process for people to be like, you have to document your processes. If you're going to bring someone in, you have to document processes so that if that person leaves or if you grow and you need a second person,
you can train them.
There's something in place that you're not necessarily training them directly. Yeah. Maybe you're mentoring, but you're not necessarily training.
So there's already a process that they can follow.
Yeah, and those are called SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures. And so that's kind of like, and so the book kind of lays out like, and then like you got to specialize. Yeah. Right? Like you can't offer logos and then offer mobile phone repair and I've got someone in mind and offer like all these different things. Like, no, like no one's going to see you as a specialist. No one's going to like,
it's true. You don't have a niche. And that's a big conversation, that it's been going around in most of my conversations is like, do you want a niche? Do you not? Is niche, like what about someone who creates multiple avenues? Do you just create multiple businesses? Or does one business is able, because like what you're saying is true. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be a graphic designer. I offer logos and also phone repair. Like, well, let me just go to the phone repair guy. Because
there's a time to learn and there's a time to earn. Okay. And so 5 years ago, I wanted to really break into e-commerce in a meaningful way and learn how to like grow a direct to consumer brand. So I went to go help out. Well, what I could offer 8-figure brands making over $10 million. What I could offer that, and why that number matters, is because at that number, you have the ability to do a lot of different things that, say, a brand that only makes $100,000 a year can't do. And so I was helping brands that would make over $1 million, over $10 million, but I was really targeting brands that would make over 10 million, and they could afford to pay my rate.
Okay.
Right. Where it made it worth my while to consult, because I wasn't consulting before that. I just had my business that was paying for things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I'm going to go learn new things, I want to get paid well.
Yeah.
Someone makes $100,000, they can't pay you $100 an hour if that's your goal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They don't have it.
And how do you look for those clients?
Yeah. So actually,
since the beginning, you know, like people are usually, and what you're saying is very interesting, like sacrificing a bad client, looking for bigger paying clients. But for a lot of people, say like a first timer photographer.
Yeah.
How do you sacrifice, like, oh, well, I'm just doing a lot of cheap shoots because that's my income. How do you get rid of that and move into like, okay, let me go for the real?
Probably at the beginning, don't ask for money.
Okay.
At the beginning. Like if you're just like that brand new to things,
Yeah.
don't ask for money. Get the experience. Experience is going to pay way more than anything else.
Right.
Because if you're limiting your experience by people who are willing to pay you, you're going to work with clients who have like small vision.
Yeah.
Because they have small budgets.
Yeah, it's so good.
Instead, you want to go work with someone who has a big vision and is willing to take a bet on you. Right. Because you're saying, hey, like, because they admire your hustle, because they're like, you know what? I remember when I was younger, I just need someone to give me a chance.
Yeah.
And because like, you don't want to work with huge businesses at the beginning either, because you want the experience of like a lot of different little things.
Yeah.
Right. So you start to like, you need perspective that only comes like from being able to touch different parts of the process.
Right. Because I think what you're saying, like if you get a huge client, right? Say you right away, you end up working for Apple, which is I mean, just an example. But you need people skills, how to work with clients, how to communication, besides just the craft. Yeah. You can do a good craft and burn your relationships.
Or even more like this. Say you're a photographer.
Right.
Right. And you go work for Apple or a videographer. You go work for Apple. What's going to happen? You're going to be a boom pole operator at the beginning. Right. You're just going to hold your hand up with the audio.
Yeah.
There's no experience that's going to be valuable there.
Right. You're not going to grow in the actual field where you have your vision. You're just going to be rolling cables, holding something.
But perhaps there's someone else who you're like, hey, there's a guy who already works with a bunch of leading brands in town, and you want to work with brands, let's just say, because brands tend to have the most money.
Right.
Straight up, like, you know, like if you get closer to the money, you'll make more money.
Yeah.
Not that money means purpose, but we do need resources to make things happen.
Yeah.
So maybe you can help someone who already has the good clients, and instead of being a boom pole operator, you're going to be a second camera, but you're going to be a second camera to a guy who you're going to see how he works the client and sets up and all these other things, instead of just showing up one day and holding the mic
forever. You're not even close to the business side.
You're not close at all. Right. And then you're like, oh, okay, I see what this guy's doing. Like, okay, maybe now you get the confidence to be like, well, you know, I'm going to need a little bit of gear. I can see what's needed. I know how to do things, you know, at a level that I'll get paid more.
Right.
But, and then that guy will probably pay, or, you know, that person would probably pay you at some point, or you go find someone who'll pay you. Right. Because most people think, I got to do this on my own. Yeah. That was a lesson that for me, that's just going back to like 5 years ago. I'm like, I want to learn how to build a big brand.
Yeah.
And part of that is we had never done paid advertising for a brand. It all came, I used to wear this as a badge of honor. I used to be like, we never spent $1 on advertising.
Okay.
And that brand made millions of dollars over a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so I thought like, yeah, I'm a winner.
Yeah.
But the reality is I had friends who would learn paid advertising, and they were doing multiple millions a year.
Wow.
Because they had figured out like how to drive value and how to like get in front of customers and how to like connect with them. I used to think that I needed to do it on my own because I had built my own business. I actually had a friend who one day would go to play golf, and this friend like is ahead of me.
Okay.
By far. He had built some brands that a lot of people know of that sold for $1 billion. Like he was at a company, well, he was part of a team that helped build up this company and many other ones. And so we go play golf, and he's like, hey, would you ever consider taking a job? And without thinking about it, I was like, no,
You wouldn't.
not at all. It was 2013. I'm like, no, not at all, man. And he's like, why? And I was like, well, so he just kind of like, he respected my answer,
Yeah.
but he knew better.
Okay.
And what he knew better was because he had gone to work inside of a team that was going to work on bigger things.
Right.
And he was going to get access to learn to more. And it was starting early. Like, you know, startups, small businesses that are growing. That's the key to like really getting a bunch of experience, valuable experience. Because when you're on a small team and it's growing, you're naturally going to be thrown into new projects where you'll get a chance to like learn and to
actually develop.
Yeah.
Not just come into something that's already done. You just turn on the lights and wait.
Yeah. Where you have a script and you just follow the script.
Yeah.
No, you get to make the script. You get to try things and figure out where the magic happened, why we succeeded at this part, why we failed at that part. And now for the next time, you're the expert. You're the guy who knows what not to do, what landmines to avoid.
Yeah, because you've been planting businesses and learning from that from the very beginning.
Yeah. So I went and learned I from a bunch of different brands.
So did you end up going with him or not?
No, I didn't. I it took me a while to figure. I'm really slow sometimes at like understanding cues.